So talk to me a little bit about what you think the character traits are of being an entrepreneur, and then how you assessed your own energy needs.
Yeah, so I don't know if I have enough like wisdom or insight to generalize what the characteristics or character traits of entrepreneurs are. In fact, I think a lot of the concepts we have, so entrepreneurship as a concept, um, business as a concept, that we kind of try and put a lot of different instances of it into one box. And it's really more like the idea of entrepreneurship can look like many, many different things to many different people. So for me, what it looked like was one, schedule flexibility. Like that was a huge thing for me. And that kind of ties into the energy question. And honestly, it came just from the fact that I had like really, really painful periods and like period cramps in high school. And I couldn't fathom in my head how I was going to work through like that pain, and had never heard anyone talk about like asking for work off for that, right? Like talking about like your body was and still is a very, very taboo thing in the workplace. And so I was like, well, the only solution is to not have a normal job, because like I'm not going to be able to get through like the week that I have my period cramps and like not have major life consequences, or like really struggle or feel stressed out or have all of these issues. So the schedule flexibility was huge right off the bat. And I would say another thing is having like the freedom to try and fail at things. I think there's a lot more freedom to do that in entrepreneurship than in, again, like the classroom. You can only fail so many times before you get a bad grade and you have to retake the class, or, like you have these consequences to it. And with entrepreneurship, yes, there's consequences, but they aren't necessarily ones that set you back. They can be ones that, set you up for something better kind of moving forward. And they're really great opportunities to build like mental resilience and emotional resilience that I think are kind of like the foundation to, um, you know, survival and happiness in a healthy way as a human being. Like you have to be able to, the goal shouldn't be to be happy all the time. It should be able to endure the really stressful, hard moments and get back to whatever happiness is to us.
Yeah. And when I think about resilience for entrepreneurs, they often take on a lot of risk. They often take on a lot of financial risk. They put a lot of their own personal time into their business and effort. And there is a huge amount of resilience that you have to learn, and there's a lot at stake. How have you approached the financial stresses that come with being an entrepreneur and taking financial risks, investing in yourself, investing in your business, and wondering if it's going to work, right? And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. So, I fortunately or unfortunately, I look at it as fortunately, started from the bottom in terms of financial positioning. So, me and my husband started our first business after we were in a gas explosion. I dropped out with student loan debt. We weren't making any money. So, we were completely broke, living homeless in this RV from 1978 that like barely ran. No air conditioning, no power, no running water. And we're emotionally in a not great place because we just been through like this major trauma. So luckily I had to make it work. There really wasn't like another option. And there was only one way to go, which was up, right? Like I didn't have the mindset if this doesn't work, because where I was already wasn't working. So I didn't even have that mentality, which I think was actually really useful when you're only focused on accomplishing something and you actually don't care what that something is, as long as it's more than what you have now, making one step forward. Then you really aren't focused on negative things. So it doesn't feel like negative things are happening. Like it's this really interesting dynamic when we were homeless, that it was one of the worst times of our life from for example, a physically how we felt standpoint, because we wouldn't eat for, 48 hours, 72 hours at a time. So our stomachs would hurt. Like feel like our stomach was kind of like eating itself, and a lot of, like horrible gas and just like really uncomfortable. Paired with like we didn't have money for laundry, so we were wearing like the same clothes again and again, and we smelled bad. Paired with like we had two dogs at the time, and one of them had a really sensitive stomach, and we tried to buy him the less expensive dog food that he'd always been on, and he like diarrheaed everywhere in the RV, right? So like all of these little things keep popping up. And even though all of that was physically uncomfortable, there was a lot of joy and freedom and happiness in that experience, because we weren't, tied to this framework. We weren't trapped in this box, which is, I feel like, where almost all of human unhappiness comes from. It's just because we don't feel like we can fully express ourselves. When we fully express ourselves, we're happy. Even horrible times, right? Even when we're going through really like hard, painful things, we can still have this incredible appreciation of life, this awe, this gratitude, all of these other things at the same time that we're experiencing this pain.
Yeah.
So that
I love
experience
that.
set me up super well for like the rest of it, after that.
100%.